Hi, everybody. We'll give everybody just a few minutes to join and we'll get started. Okay, good evening, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I wanted to let you all know that this presentation is a copy of it is available on the Class of 2022 website, as well as a copy of the handout. And you can find that information if you go just to the La Cueva website and click on the senior button, you'll be able to see that. So you will be able to chat questions in the YouTube chat, and I'll be able to see that. I will try to keep up with them as we go along, but definitely we'll have time for questions at the end. So feel free to just hang out and listen. And if I still haven't answered your questions, then you can ask at the end, or if you want to type something in, just know that I might not get to it until the end if I'm already planning to answer that in a future slide. So the good news that I told all of your students is that we actually have a graduation date for them. Last year's seniors, we didn't actually know their graduation date until April. So we have a graduation date. There's an end in sight for them, which they were all very excited about. But for our parents, I know that is a little terrifying because that means that their senior year is almost over. But May 11th at 2:30 p.m. at Tingley Coliseum is going to be their graduation date. As always, if anything changes, we will communicate that with you. But as of right now, and it has been for the last few weeks, that is the graduation date and time and location. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through the presentation that I went through with the students, because I find that as a parent, I was always trying to guide my student through the senior year. And as a counselor, I appreciate it when my parents are there to help guide the students and kind of keep them on track. You are one of the best resources I have. And so I want to share this information with you. The one thing that I did tell all of the students is I'm creating a Google Classroom for seniors. It is out there, but nothing's posted in it. But I will have their English teachers share this code with them again, because some of them didn't have the ability to join during the presentation. But anything that has an asterisk in the presentation is a resource that I'm going to provide them directly in Google Classroom. It usually also means it's on their Class of 2022 website, which I'll show you guys in just a second. So communication is one of the things that I try to do well. One of the biggest places that you can find information is, as I said, on the Class of 2022 website. The district has listened and finally made it very easy for you all and your students to find the website. And so if you just go to the La Cueva website and click on seniors, it takes you to our Class of 2022 website. This is where Ms. Metzger and I will post important information. I think there's some information about senior pictures that we need to add some more information to, but this is where your scholarship list will be. This is where graduation and cap and gown information, we will just keep adding to this website as we go along. If you go there now, you will see a copy of this slideshow, as well as a copy of the important dates and deadlines. I handed each one of your students one of these handouts. I'm not going to go through it page by page, but it does have very helpful information. It's often useful if parents will just put it on the refrigerator and kind of check it every once in a while. And I told most of your students that that would be a good idea too. So it's stuck in the backpack somewhere, but you can definitely get a copy of it for yourself on that website. So the most important thing that needs to happen is the students, we need them to graduate. So we handed every single one of them a transcript. So ask for that. You can also view the transcript under parent view, under the course history tab. There should be a way to download a transcript, but your student does have a hard copy of it. The transcript shows everything that they've ever taken in high school. We told them that if there's a course missing, that they need to contact Mrs. Aid, our registrar. If it was taken outside of APS, it just means we need to get a copy of that transcript. But it also includes information like their current GPA. There's a weighted GPA and an unweighted or flat GPA, and some colleges will ask for that information when they're applying. It includes their current ranking, which is based on their weighted GPA, and it also includes the courses that they need to graduate. So it's just kind of a good thing we wanted to hand it to them to give them an idea of what it looks like right now. We went over with them that to make sure in their graduation credit summary that there's nothing in the need column. Basically, the credit summary shows this is what you need to graduate, this is what you've already completed, what you have in progress, and then what's still needed. If there's anything in the need column, it means they're not in program to graduate, and our counselors need to talk to them about what their plan is. But for the most part, the kids knew what their plans were and knew how they were going to get it taken care of. So this wasn't anything that became an issue during our presentations, but it's just a point that you can talk to them about as well. And again, if there's something wrong with the transcript or you just see that something's missing, have them talk to their counselor or Mrs. Aid, our registrar, up in the front office. So this slide is usually one that creates a lot of anxiety with our students and our parents, but I told your students, and I'm going to tell all of you, read the last two words. Don't worry. The good news is that we've been given some flexibility with our graduation testing requirements in that we have a lot of different ways that we can prove that a student is proficient. It used to be that students had to pass the graduation assessments. With the fact that we weren't able to give the SAT to every single student, that we haven't had consistent testing throughout their high school year, we're allowed to use alternative demonstration of competency. So what we will be doing over the next few months, we will look at SATs, PSATs, end of course exams to see if we can find a test score that does show proficiency in those 5 areas. If we don't find a test score that meets that for one or more of those areas, we will look to see if the student passed a final exam with a C or higher, and that will prove competency. If they have not done that, then we can use things such as a college acceptance letter. If they're planning to join the military or go into an apprenticeship, we can use a lot of different things that are post-secondary options to show proficiency, because the idea is that you have to have a certain level of education to be able to go on to the next level. And so then they allow us to use that as proficiency. So don't worry, if we need something to prove competency for one or more area, we will ask your student to come down and talk to the counselor. The counselor will discuss with them what we need, and then they just have to turn it in. So good news, there's not going to be any makeup testing. So a student did ask today if we were going to be offering the free SAT again, and we're not going to be. It's not something that is scheduled. So we will use what was taken last year, but we won't be offering it again for this year's seniors. So we talked a lot about plans after high school. So I want our seniors to really start thinking about what is it that I'm thinking about doing next August. It can take many different forms for all of our students, and it can be a combination of things. Students can choose just to go directly into the job market. I talked with a wonderful young man today that is planning to go and work in a construction field. He has a job lined up, he knows his path, and he is well taken care of. Other students might want to enter the job market but not know how to get there. That's where I can help them as well. Students that want to join the military, definitely if they already are in contact with a recruiter, great. If they don't have contact, they can reach out to me. We are offering the ASVAB later this month, which is the military kind of entrance exam. It's at school. I believe it's on the 23rd, and the link to sign up for that is on the La Cueva counseling page. I also sent that out to parents and students the other night. So military is a great option. My husband is retired from the Air Force from 22 years, is enlisted, so it took care of us, and it can be a great option for many of our students. But if they need help getting there, have them come see me. The next four options are going to be included in our next section on post-secondary education. And I kind of went over these with our students to just give them an idea of things that are available. But one of the first things that I told them is knowing what you want to do next after high school as far as education really starts with, what do I want to do as a career? That's a big question for 16, 17, 18-year-olds to answer. There are days that I'm not even sure what I want to do next for my career. I'm staying, don't worry, it's good. But we are often changing and growing, and our interests are changing. So doing a career assessment is a great way to just evaluate what their interests are and see what careers they might be interested in. From there, they can back it up and say, a little bit, so give me a second. Okay. So when we talk about those post-secondary educational opportunities, apprenticeships is the ultimate on-the-job training that is included in that after high school education because it is an education program. They're just tied with a journeyman or a tradesman in a certain trade, and they are in the program for 1 to 5 years, but their education is paid for. They're paid while they're doing the job, and they are also provided all of the tools. So these type of programs will be your HVAC. There'll be the plumbing, the welding, the highline workers, lots of different opportunities available in the trades. And as we all know, it's an aging profession, so they're desperate for new people to come in, and they're all going to make more money than me, for sure. It's a great field if somebody wants to go into the trades. We can get them hooked up with some information on apprenticeships. Trade schools is another variety of going directly into a trade, but there are schools that just specifically focus on like automotive or cosmetology or massage therapy. There are specific schools that's what they do. So those would be the trade schools if students are interested in those. The two most popular options that our students pursue are our 2-year or community college and our 4-year colleges or universities. So we have 85% of our students go on to college. So a lot of the rest of this presentation is going to focus on that process, but we are seeing more students take different paths. So I wanted to make sure I covered that. But at the 2-year school, all of those trades that I mentioned, as far as like the apprenticeships and those type of things, you can get training for at CNM. They have the trades available, and they have tons of connections. So if students want to attend CNM to get a certificate in a certain trade, they can do that. Transfer onto the university. I'm sorry if my internet's cutting in and out. I'm trying to see if I can fix it. So lots of different options that you can start at the community college and then transfer on to the 4-year college if that is the path that they want to take. Then the 4-year schools are like our UNMs, our NMSUs. That's where they're going to get their bachelor's degree. And then if they need to go on for their master's or their PhD program, they can do that as well. So applying to colleges, it looks different depending on the college that they're going to. But I started with I started today and I kind of mentioned it a little bit yesterday, talking about what kind of schools to apply to or how to develop their list. We want to encourage students to have a variety in their applications. So have a reach school. They're not sure they can go to, not sure they can get into, not sure they can pay for, but if everything else fell through or everything worked out perfectly, they'd love to go there and it would be amazing. It's like their dream school. A fallback school, if everything fell apart and they needed to go to a school they knew they could get into and they knew they could pay for, they have this one to fall back on. And then some in the middle. It always breaks my heart in May when students say, I applied to all of these schools across the nation and I got into them, but they didn't really give me any money. But I didn't apply to a fallback school that I knew I could get a scholarship at because I really just wanted to go somewhere else. So we want them to have that variety. Apply to an in-state school. If they're looking at out of state, just have that variety for them. There's no perfect number of schools to apply to. It does take time to apply to schools and it takes money. There are application fees involved. So making sure that they have that in mind it usually helps narrow them down. This resource through the College Board, the College Search, can help students really get an idea of the differences between colleges and that there is information on that Class of 2022 website as well. So colleges love our students. They know that our students are academically prepared to succeed at the next level, and so they often want to come visit. They have not been able to visit in a long time, so they are knocking down my door. I have this list of colleges coming to visit, but I also have more that we haven't scheduled yet. So for instance, we have Tulane and University of Chicago, Texas A&M, Northern Arizona, Texas Tech, lots of different colleges coming to visit. They are currently scheduled to come into B lunch, which is our normal lunch, which is the lunch most of our seniors have. And it says inside or outside for location, but now that we're allowed to eat back lunch inside, I'm going to move them all inside so that the students can visit with them right next to the pizza window. They don't have to sign up or anything for those. They just can stop and visit. The one important thing to know is that the colleges coming to visit La Cueva, as well as the colleges coming to the college fair, the reps are usually our representative. They're the ones that are going to be reading our applications from our students. And so it's often great to go up and strike up a conversation with the people that are visiting and just ask them questions and get to know them so that they can remember the student during the application process. So the Ramaka College Fair is coming up on September 19th. It's a Sunday. We typically will hold a college night at La Cueva, but we're not able to do that this year. So we're sending students to the citywide fair. This is down at the Albuquerque Convention Center, but it has hundreds of colleges that are from across the nation. Okay, so students can go on here, they can see a list of the schools that are coming, and then go and just spend an hour there, a couple hours there, and just start making connections. I do have some more information about how students can pre-register for the event. There's no registration required, but it makes it easier so they get a barcode and the colleges can scan the barcode to get their contact information so they can share it with the colleges that they want to share it with. So I'll send that out here in the next couple of days. But it's a great opportunity for students to start making those connections, but also to ask questions like, are you test optional? Or how do I apply for scholarships? Or what scholarships could I qualify for? It's a great time to just start getting the clarifying information that the students need to be able to make their decisions of where to apply to. So college application components vary by college. When we look at it, it can include all of these things, or it can include just simply the application. every one of them requires an application. Some of the applications are very simple. All of our in-state schools, the applications take 10 to 15 minutes to fill out. They are all open right now, except for CNM. It will open later this fall, and I'll make an announcement once that is open. But we are having an event for UNM, New Mexico State, and New Mexico Tech, and I'll talk about that on the next slide. So in-state schools, they all have different applications, but it is all very easy to fill out. Our out-of-state schools is where students need to do research on what application do I have to fill out for them. There are some colleges that all kind of accept the same application. So the Common App is the most common website. It's accepted by over 900 colleges throughout the nation. And to be part of the Common App, students have to agree to admit students holistically, meaning it's not just a simple GPA or test score decision. They look at students' letters of recommendation, they look at their essays, they look at their transcripts, their grades, everything, extracurricular activities, they look at everything and admit students based on the whole person. So that's what the Common App is. So let's say that your student has maybe a lower GPA, but they have a ton of extracurricular, but they've got a great looking transcript as far as the courses they've taken. A school that admits them holistically might be a good option because they'll be able to see the full picture versus somebody that would just admit them based on a GPA. Coalition App is somewhat similar to Common App. It just has a different focus. It is more related to meeting the financial need of students, and not as many schools accept that. There are other applications like Apply Texas. So if your student is looking at a Texas school, then they're most likely going to use the Apply Texas. The one thing about all of these is you fill out the application once, and then you can submit it to multiple colleges. So you only have to do that work once. The other part of this is that they have to pay the application fee to all of those schools. So some students are like, oh, I'll just submit it to everybody on this list. No, you still have to pay the application fee. So that's how all of them work. Apply Texas, the same thing, but it's just for Texas schools. The University of California application only for the UC schools, and then the Cal State app is only for the Cal State schools. So have students start looking if they have more than one school that accepts the Common App. It's going to save them time. Another note about the Common App is that the student goes in and fills out their profile information, and they upload their essay. They'll put in their counselor's information, and it'll send their counselor a link where they'll upload their letter of recommendation and the student's transcripts and a school profile. Then they'll put in the teacher's email address, and the teacher will get a link to upload a letter of recommendation from the student from a teacher's standpoint. And all of that comes together, and that's submitted electronically as a package to the different campuses that the student wants to apply to. So that's the benefit of the Common App. If you're applying to out-of-state schools that accept it, it will help save some time versus applying to every school individually. So as I mentioned, we are going to have UNM, NMSU, and New Mexico Tech at La Cueva next week on the 15th at lunch, and they are going to be doing an application event. So students will just bring their Chromebooks, we'll get them the links to apply, and the admissions reps will waive their application fees on that day, and we'll just get them all done at the same time. So if your student's interested in applying to any of those colleges, just tell them to come to the lecture hall on the 15th at lunch, and we'll get them taken care of. These are just the websites again for Common App and Coalition App. This presentation is available on your Class of 2022 website. We talked about application fees, and they can range from $20 to $80. Some of them might be a little higher this year as well. But if your student has ever qualified for free or reduced price lunch, there are fee waivers available. So I know this year everybody gets free lunch, and so you might not have reapplied. But if your income is lower, it's worth it to reapply because we can waive college application fees. If your student is thinking about taking the ACT or SAT, we can waive that. AP exam fees go down from $96 to $3. NCAA fee waivers, and cap and gowns. So we can provide a lot of different assistance if they are on that fare reduced price lunch program. The application is listed here, the website, if you want to reapply, or you can just go to the APS website and search for nutrition services, and it's on there. If the student's not able to attend our event on the 15th, but they are interested in applying to UNM, when you get to the payment page, if you click mail payment and you apply by October 15th, UNM will waive your application fee, but you just have to say mail payment. Otherwise, they'll charge you the $25 fee. They do that for all New Mexico students. So they'll go through and see who's from New Mexico and waive that fee for them. Okay. The ACT and SAT is a very big topic, and it has been for the last 2 years. And so it's something that is still a big unknown for a lot of students, and it's just going to take some research. So the term test optional has become basically our buzzword, and it's a good thing for students that haven't been able to take a test. It typically means scores are not required, but the school may be test optional for admissions and not scholarships, or they might be test optional for both. And so this is where the research comes in. We found that last year in the fall for last year's grads, the schools went test optional because students couldn't take a test. What we're finding now is that students have been able to take a test here and there, so schools are reevaluating their policy and then they're posting it to their website. So there's so many colleges across the nation doing so many different things. The students really just need to go to those college websites and do their research. When they look on the college website, they want to make sure that they're looking for the class of 2022 requirements or the requirements for fall 2022 admissions. When I first went and looked for UNM's information a couple weeks ago, it still had last year's information on there. It's been updated since then, but you don't want to be just assuming that this is what's happening for your graduate. So make sure that they're checking that. If they're test optional for admissions, you should also check and see if they're test optional for scholarships as well, because it is a different process at colleges, and you want to make sure that your student is going to be considered for both of them. If you don't submit a test score, but they say if you have one, you can submit it, but you don't, they're just going to look at the other components of your application. So it's kind of that thing that if you did really well, your student did really well on the test, and they think it will help that application, go ahead and submit it. But if they were having a bad day on test day, or they're just not a good test taker, they don't have to submit it as long as the school is test optional. There's another example that, like Texas Tech, for instance, is being very transparent with their scholarships, and I absolutely love it. They have a chart on their website that basically says, if you want to apply with just your GPA, here's the scholarship that you will get. If you want to apply with your test score, and your test score is at this range, this is the scholarship you'll get. So they say, if your test score will give you more money, send us your test score and we'll give you more money. If it doesn't give you any more money than your GPA, don't submit it. It's not going to help, okay? But not every school is that transparent. So just start looking around. If they have a hard time finding it, have them reach out to me and we'll do some research together, but definitely have them check and see what they can find for now. Our local in-state schools, UNM is definitely test optional. They're not considering tests for admissions or scholarships. The same from NMSU. And New Mexico Tech, I have not heard officially yet. I forgot to ask her this week. So have them check her website, or Tech's website. So Typically, schools will use the entrance exams. We talked about admissions, we talked about scholarships, but they'll also use it for placement into math and English. So when we think about going to college, we're going to start with our freshman English class and our college algebra class. But sometimes with our English score, we can place out of the freshman English, or we can place into a higher level math. So that might be the opportunity where it's nice to submit your test scores to be able to place into higher level classes, so you're not kind of starting at that beginner level. So that's another reason why submitting test scores might be good. But if you don't have a test score, they all will have their own individual placement exam, so you do not have to submit them if you don't have them. Another good question that I had was, do I have to take the ACT and SAT? ACT and SAT are interchangeable. Every school that is out there accepts both. So if the student has taken an SAT, they're good. They can just submit that test score if they want to. If they've only done ACT, that's fine. Some schools will have on their website that we're looking for an ACT score of this, but they always have an equivalent SAT score as well. Some upcoming test dates. So let's say that your student finds that they need to take a test, or maybe they've taken one already and they want to take it again to try to get a higher score. These are some upcoming tests that are coming soon. I always remind students that it does take 3 to 5 weeks for colleges to receive their scores. So if they're trying to meet a December 1st deadline, really that first test date for each one is really the last opportunity to get the scores in time for December 1st. But if the deadlines are in the spring, they can take the December tests as well. This chart is a tool that I talk to our students about. Up until 2 years ago, the vast majority of our students took the ACT, so I still think in terms of ACT, but now we've shifted to where the majority of our students are taking an SAT. So this is a nice conversion chart. So if you're looking at if you have an SAT of 1280, but then a school you're looking at says we're looking for an ACT of 27, you can see that those are equivalent. So it's just a nice chart to kind of see what the ranges are. Also, some schools will super score, which means they'll take the individual components of the test. And if you've taken it more than one time, so let's say you took the ACT twice and you got higher on reading and math one time and then higher on English and science the second time, they'll take those individual components, add them together to get a higher composite score. So taking it multiple times might help you out if the school considers test scores and they super score. So just some terminology for you. Transcripts, we talked a little bit about it, but we want to talk about how to get transcripts. So transcripts need to be ordered through Parchment. Parchment is a transcript ordering and sending service that we use, and it's free to students. They'll often try to send us requests through SendEDU or different applications, but we will just send them an email back and say, please order this through Parchment. To get to Parchment, they just go to Little Cueva website, scroll down to important links, and then there's a link that says order transcripts. They'll set up an account, and then they can type in the name of the school. They can type in an email address if it's going to a scholarship organization. They can type in any of that, and it'll send it electronically. They can track when the order's been received. They can track when it's been sent and when it's been downloaded by that organization. So it makes it a nice record keeping for the student and for the school. Mrs. Ada is our registrar, and she does try to process those within 2 business days. So that's for ordering transcripts. If your student is using the Common App, they don't need to order a transcript because the counselor is uploading the transcript into the system. So that's just the only exception. So I see your question about the lottery scholarship, and that is coming up on its own slide, and we'll talk about scholarships too. Okay. So transcripts through Parchment, it'll look like it has a fee associated with it, but it zeroes out because the district pays for it. So there's no fee as far as sending transcripts. If your student later wants a copy of their unofficial transcript, they can order it through here and have it sent to their email. But just know that once it goes to them, it does become unofficial. For it to be considered official, it has to go directly to the organization or the employer. So letters of recommendation, they're not required by any of our schools here in the state, but definitely if you're looking out of state and then for some scholarships. Recommendations could be they could ask for them from teachers, counselors, or community members. It's pretty rare to see a community member as a requirement, but it's possible. We do ask that students give teachers and counselors a minimum of 10 business days notice to write a good letter of recommendation. We always joke that if the student tells us today, we can write them one if it's due tomorrow, but we'll just say they're a La Cueva student, this is their GPA, very basic information. But if they give the counselors and teachers 10 days, they can talk about their leadership, how they are in the classroom. They can talk about them in the context of the school, extracurricular activities. They can talk more in depth about them and paint a better picture. So counselors, if a student needs a counselor letter of recommendation, they simply need to go to the La Cueva counseling site, and every counselor has their own website listed on there. So this is an example of Miss Garcia, and and she basically has, we have a link at the bottom, and at the bottom it says request for letter of recommendation, and there's a form that you can fill out. So at the bottom, it's basically a Google form, and it will ask you, what are 3 words you use to describe yourself? What are 3 words your parents use to describe you? It'll ask about extracurricular. It'll ask about a lot of different things that just helps the student. At the end of when they submit it, they should also get an emailed copy of it that they can then use to give to teachers or other recommenders as a resource as well. So if they need a counselor letter of recommendation, their academic counselor is going to be the one that writes it for them. There's no way I could write one for all 400 of our students, so we divvy that up amongst the academic counselors. So essays and resumes. Resumes are pretty rare in the application process, but a teacher might ask for a resume if a student's asking for a letter of recommendation. Essays, again, not needed for our in-state schools, but they might be required for out-of-state schools and then scholarships as well. So essays are something that it just depends on what the topic is or what the question is that the student's going to be able to pick kind of what they write about. One thing that stood out to me when I talked to college admissions professionals recently in a seminar, they said you'd be surprised how many students don't actually answer the question. So it's shocking to me that that would ever happen, but students will just write an essay and submit it and think that it's good enough, but they didn't answer the question that that college or organization asked them to. We also really encourage students to have somebody they know read it, because if they're talking about their life experiences, it is typical or normal to them. It's not something that, it's their normal. So if they have a parent read it, you can then encourage them, hey, let's expand on this a little bit more because it's very unique to you. We also want somebody that can help proofread it for them, like an English teacher or somebody that's very good at grammar, because there's nothing worse than reading an essay and getting to a point where there's a spelling error or something wrong and it just stopping you in your tracks, and it really distracts from the message that you're trying to get across. So really just try to think through those things and again, answer the question. If a student needs a resume, let's say for a job or an application or something like that, Google Docs has some pretty nice templates that can get a student started. And I will load that into their Google Classroom as to how to find those for them. So other important information. So admission to UNM. So 50% of our students stay in state to go to college. The vast majority of those students go to UNM. So I always like to tell students what it takes to get admitted to UNM. You need a 2.5 unweighted GPA. So remember, we talked about weighted versus flat on the transcript. It would be that flat GPA and 16 core courses. So the math, science, English, social studies, those are all part of graduation requirements. So if they graduate, they're going to have those. The only thing different is the 2 years of the same foreign language. We really encourage all of our students to take a foreign language, so this shouldn't be a problem for most of them. But if your student did not take a foreign language, just have them come see me, because there's a different way to go about admissions that we can still get them admitted to UNM. It's just a different process, and I can help them with that. If your student's planning on playing sports in college, they should register with the NCAA clearinghouse as soon as possible. It's going to ask them information about their past history with sports. They're going to need to upload a transcript or send a transcript through Parchment. And it's kind of a lengthy application, but they need to get that started. If they need help with that, Mrs. Garcia, who is one of our counselors, is our expert in NCAA. So have them come in and see her. She can check their courses to make sure they're meeting eligibility requirements, look at their GPA, all of that, and kind of work with them if they need help with the application process as well. Students are allowed 5 days to go visit colleges throughout their senior year, and they can be excused absences. All they need to do is fill out this form ahead of time. And to fill out the form, they have to have a parent sign it, an administrator sign it, and their teachers sign it, and then they turn it into the into the attendance office at La Cueva. Then when they come back, they just bring us something showing us that they were on the visit. It can be a business card, it can be an agenda, something like that, and we will excuse those absences. So this form is available in the counseling office, and I will load it into their Google Classroom. So paying for college, this is an area that I'm very passionate about, and I will try to send information to you guys throughout the year. And we're going to go through a couple things, including a presentation that we're going to do later on this month about paying for college. But I want to kind of give you guys some basics right now. This is where we're going to talk about the lottery scholarship and other things like that as well. So I want to give you just a brief overview of how college costs and financial need work. We're going to go into this a lot more on our next presentation on September 27th, but for now, just a brief overview. But basically what happens is the financial aid process, the FAFSA, is what is used to determine, or by colleges to determine what your financial need is. Okay, so that application is going to be looked at, and it's going to look at how much do they think the family can contribute to an education, and how much do they think a student can contribute to your education. That is your expected family contribution. I often have students say, there's no way I can go to this college because it costs $80,000 a year. Well, that's not necessarily true, because we don't have all the pieces to the puzzle yet. And what that means is we don't know what that family contribution is. What happens is that cost, which is the $80,000 a year, is the cost of attendance. And that includes tuition fees, room and board, books and supplies, everything that it costs to breathe and live and go to school. What happens is the college takes the cost of attendance and subtracts that family contribution and then determines the need. Why I share this with you now is if that college costs, let's say the family contribution is $3,000, but the college costs $16,000, your financial need is $13,000. But let's say that you go to a college that costs $50,000, your family contribution as determined by the government does not change, but your need does, and that school will then try to meet that need. They can meet that need with grants, which is free money. They can meet that need with work study and then loans as well. But we won't know all of that until we apply to the college, we're admitted, we do our financial aid, we apply for scholarships, and they develop our award letter. All of that is a process that's going to take the year. Okay, we will know and probably have all of the pieces of the puzzles in April. Some of you might be lucky and have it before April, but it's just a process that we work through all together. Some students were asking me, well, don't I have to apply and be admitted before I apply for scholarships? No. You can start applying for scholarships now. You can start applying for admissions. We'll start financial aid in October. It all works at the same time. We just have to get them all in by the deadlines that they have. So I like to give you that little primer to not rule out those colleges that cost something that you don't think that you can pay for. It's something that we're going to try to piece together enough money to help you pay for, but it's going to take a whole team effort to do that. So FAFSA is something that I just mentioned, and this is something that I want to encourage everybody to fill out. I get a lot of parents that say we won't qualify because we make too much money. This is, that's something that it could be true. We don't know. We don't know how that school is going to view that family contribution. This FAFSA process is figuring out what is that family contribution, and then the school is going to determine, do they have money that can help meet your need or not? Now, the one big part of the FAFSA is that more and more scholarships are requiring you to have the FAFSA on file to get the scholarship. You do not have to have financial need. They just want you to fill out the FAFSA. And there's some examples that I'll share you in a second. So the FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. What it is going to do is it's going to take information about the student and the family, the income. It'll ask about some investments, but not the house you live in or the your retirement or anything. We'll go into more of this detail on the 27th. But basically, my point on this one is it's a free application for federal student aid. There are scam sites out there that make you pay money and they have you give them your social, your birthday, your tax information, and they make you pay money, and it's a scam. You need to make sure that you're going to the .gov site. Do not go and fill out this application until after October 1st. If you fill it out now, you're filling it out for this school year, and that's not when your student is going to be attending college. So October 1st is when your application opens up. What I'm doing before October 1st is on the 27th at 6 p.m. I'll be holding a night where I will go through the application, the FAFSA application, and tell you how to fill it out. It'll be an overview of the entire application, but we'll talk more in depth about scholarships as well. But this is just an idea of make sure that if you're doing it on your own, you're going to the .gov website. Okay. Scholarships is where we find our students getting quite a bit of their money from, and it's primarily school-based scholarships. So school-based scholarships are the ones, we're going to use UNM as our example in this process. So UNM has their Regents, Presidential, Woodward, Scholars, all of those scholarships that are part of their package, and they're based on the student's GPA. So for them, a student just has to apply and apply by a certain date. It's either December 1st or March 1st or February 1st. They've got a couple different deadlines now. But if they apply by that date and they meet a GPA requirement, they're automatically considered for all of the scholarships except for their two highest, which is Presidential and Regents, and they have to submit a separate application from those. So every school is different on whether you're automatically considered or if you have to submit a separate application. So again, the students have to do that research. Some of the scholarships are administered through admissions or financial aid or even academic departments. So back to UNM, their engineering department has a scholarship for beginning freshmen as well as their music school. And so there's little pockets of money that students can find in different areas. But they need to make sure that if they they need to fill out a separate application, they're doing that. And then they need to make sure that they're meeting those deadlines. So school-based scholarships is a huge source of money, and it's based on the schools that they're applying to. Again, apply for those now. Even if they don't know whether they're going to those schools, make sure they're applying for admission and applying for scholarships at the same time. Private scholarships are ones that if I have some money and I want to give it to a student that meets these criteria, I can set up a scholarship for that type of students, collect applications, and give the money to students. So that's what private scholarships are. They are from organizations across the nation, local organizations, individuals, and can be varied as far as who can qualify. There's something out there for everybody. There is a scholarship that I've seen in the past that is only for students who have less than a 2.5 GPA. There are other scholarships that are only for females studying a certain subject. There's something out there for everybody, but it just takes time for students to be able to navigate it and search through it. So there are scholarship search sites, and I'll show you some of them here in a second, but I encourage students and parents to ask their employers if they have a scholarship for high school seniors, because you'd be surprised that there are some out there that you might not have heard of because maybe you haven't had a senior in high school and didn't pay attention if they had scholarship announcements, so ask away. If parents or students are part of any service organizations in the community, Kiwanis Club, those type of things, there might be scholarships with them as well. Then I put out a list once a month. The list is found on that Class of 2022 website, and it is scholarships that our students have been successful with in the past, that have been sent directly to me, that are from local organizations or are for only La Cueva students. I put a list out there now. Not many of our scholarships are on there yet because many of the deadlines haven't been announced, but I'm getting more and more, so the list will grow throughout the senior year. But that list can always be found on that Class of 2022 website. So some local scholarships that will be added on there more in the spring are the Albuquerque Community Foundation. They offer a bunch of scholarships that our students can use but go anywhere, the same with the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce. And then there are some La Cueva only scholarships. Right now, the PEO Delilah Williams and Star Scholarship is on our website, and it's due next week. It is just for females. So if you have a female in the class of 2022, have them go check out that application on our website. It is due fairly soon, and I know that's not giving teachers and counselors the 10 days for the recommendations, but that's okay. Just tell the teachers this one was just given to Mrs. Chandler, and it's fairly soon. So just to have them explain it, and the teachers can help them with their recommendation. La Cueva only scholarships are something that have been growing in the past few years. We've added more and more every year, and it really makes me happy to be able to navigate or help community members navigate the process to award our students for their successes. So Robbie Baker Memorial Scholarship is awarded to one graduating senior who has a language learning or other reading disability. Our Alan Crum Memorial Scholarship is awarded through our PTA. The Steve Nee Memorial Scholarship is just for our La Cueva athletes. The Bart Rutledge Scholarship, Don Wittick, Manuel Lujan, those have specific criteria in them. All of these, the applications usually don't come out till February. We also now have the Austin Denton Memorial Scholarship. We have the Vince Sanchez Memorial Scholarship that is awarded through the swimming and diving team. More and more, like I said, are being added. So again, when those are announced, I will add them to our scholarship list, and I'll make an announcement to the students as well. Another easy one for students to be put into the running for is the College Board Opportunity Scholarships. These are through the College Board. The College Board is the organization that runs the SAT, the AP. They have that big future site, and they really want to encourage students to take steps towards navigating to what's after high school. So they say if a student goes onto that big future site and they build their college list, they'll put them into a drawing for a $500 scholarship. If they then go back later and strengthen that college list by editing and altering, they'll put into another drawing. If they practice for the SAT, explore scholarships, complete the FAFSA, and apply to colleges, they're put into the drawings for more money. And then if they do all of those things, they're giving away six $40,000 scholarships. So this is a nationwide program, but last year, 2 of our La Cueva seniors won scholarships in the smaller amounts. So it's not something that is unattainable. Our students just need to participate. It's things they're already doing anyway, so they might as well go ahead and get their name into that. I talked earlier about scholarship search sites, and these are some of them that I recommend. These are on your Class of 2022 website. The 3 that are listed, the UNM, Texas Tech, and New Mexico State scholarships, you do not have to be going to or applying to those colleges to look at these lists and apply to scholarships on them. Basically, what they've done is they've gone and they've found scholarships that are out there, and they've just brought them together into one website that students can look through. So it makes it to where I don't have to research all of the links and make sure they work. We can just have you utilize the resources that these amazing colleges have put together. The Texas Tech website, for instance, when you go, it's a chart, and you can sort it by due date. So you can say, okay, what scholarships are on this list that are due in September? And you can look through each one and see which one you qualify for, or your student qualifies for, and start the application process. So they all have a link to go to the direct website. So if your student is looking for more money beyond what the school's offering, beyond the list I have, these are great sites to start the search with. So the lottery scholarship is a huge benefit to our students here in the state. It is something that has fluctuated over the last few years, but I am very happy to announce that it is now paying 100% of tuition. So the way the lottery scholarship works is if a student graduates from a New Mexico high school, which all of our students are going to do in May, and they attend a New Mexico public college or university, they are then eligible to receive the lottery scholarship. Now, they still have to meet some other criteria, but let's say your student graduates in May and then goes out of state to college, they've lost lottery eligibility and can't get it back. It is I graduate from high school and I go to a New Mexico public college or university. They can take a gap year, so they can attend next fall or wait and attend the following fall, but they cannot attend another college in that time, okay? So once they get to the New Mexico Public College or University, the lottery does not start your first semester. The first semester is your qualifying semester, and you have to complete a certain number of credits with a 2.5 GPA. The number of credits depends on the type of college that they're going to. If they're going to a 2-year community college, they need 12 credits, which is about 4 classes. If they're going to a 4-year college, they need 5 classes of 15 credits. And they just have to get a 2.5 GPA in that. If they do that, the lottery kicks in second semester. There's no application to apply. There's nothing that needs to be done. It is an automatic. As long as they keep the 2.5 GPA, it continues for up to 7 semesters, so it will take them through their full 4-year degree program. Again, it pays 100% of tuition, but when we talk about the cost to attend college, the cost to attend college is tuition, fees, there's room and board, which is housing and food, books, supplies, and other miscellaneous expenses. So it's going to be that tuition part. So right now, I mean, if we talk about just averages, average tuition is about $8,000 at our in-state 4-year colleges. So that is an $8,000 a year scholarship that our students can get just by attending a New Mexico college or university. So it's a huge benefit for our students. New Mexico State and UNM, and I believe Tech stack their merit-based scholarships on top of lottery. So they're going to get lottery, and then if they get an academic scholarship, it goes on top of that as well. It used to be different for UNM where it was built in, but now they do stack. Okay. So because lottery doesn't kick in until second semester, each college has something different that they call their first semester scholarship. The majority of them do not require a separate application. Students are just automatically considered for it, and it's based on GPA. So here's a couple examples. UNM or CNM just requires you to be admitted by March 1st, but their application, once it opens in November, we want students to apply between usually November and January to be eligible because they do run out of money. Then UNM has their Bridge Scholarship, but you have to have a 3.3 unweighted GPA to get that one. But if you don't qualify for Bridge, there's the Success Grant, and that one needs a 2.5 unweighted GPA, but you have to have the FAFSA on file. Again, it doesn't say you have to have financial need. It just says you have to have the application on file. So that's one of those examples of where we just want you to fill out that financial aid application to keep your options open and make sure that if something's requiring it, you're still eligible for it because you had the application done. It's confusing because some of those were called Opportunity Scholarship, but this is a state program that was started, I believe, last year. So the New Mexico Opportunity Scholarship provides tuition and fee assistance for students that are going to our public college and universities. Last year, it was only for students attending two-year colleges, but I've heard rumors that they're expanding it to some four-year colleges or some students at four-year colleges. And this will pay tuition and fees for a certain number of students. You have to maintain that 2.5 GPA, and you have to have the FAFSA on file or another form of income verification if you're not eligible to do the FAFSA. So it's not something you need to apply for. If you're eligible, they'll just award it to you as well. If your student is looking out of state, some other things that they might want to look for, or if you're looking at UNM, there are programs that are called no loan programs or tuition-free programs. These are programs that if your family makes under a certain amount, the college is committed to helping you cover your tuition and fees. So UNM says less than $50,000, but USC and Harvard say less than $80,000 or $65,000. There are programs throughout the nation to help some of our students that are lower income make education possible, and they shouldn't feel limited by the costs that they see online. There are programs available to help. So this I just saw in the chat that I know is coming up. So WUI is also an amazing program. So basically, the Western Undergraduate Exchange is available to any student that is coming from a Western state, which we are, and attending a college in the West that participates in the WUI program. What that means is not all schools participate, but if they do, and your student qualifies for the program, you'll pay 150% of in-state tuition instead of paying out-of-state tuition. So let's say that out-of-state tuition is $30,000 and in-state's $10,000. A student on WUI would only pay $15,000. So it really can help bring down that cost. So as I said, not all schools in the West participate. Some of them say it's for all students, all majors, you don't have to apply, you're given it automatically. Some of them say it's limited to certain majors, or you have to fill out an application and it's competitive. What I encourage students to do is if you're looking out of state, go to the WUI website and just research your college. They've really built out the website so it's easy to navigate and figure out if it's available for your students. So that is a great benefit. There is also, the question is about adjacent states. So couple examples of that, Texas Tech says that for our New Mexico residents, their tuition is only $900 more than their in-state tuition, so it makes it very affordable for our students. And if the students get $1,000 or more scholarship from Texas Tech, they'll drop that down to in-state tuition and you get to keep your scholarship too. So there's things like that. Fort Lewis has what's called their reciprocal scholarship up in Durango. NAU has a reciprocal scholarship. So everybody's a little different in how they're helping or trying to give the bordering state, but not every school in our bordering states offer those. So you just kind of have to research those as well. So Remind is a way that I can communicate with students and parents fairly easily. So when I send emails, to parents, it goes through a program called School Messenger, but it only goes to parents. I can send emails through Synergy Mail, but students have to have notifications on for Synergy Mail, or they have to remember to go check it, and they don't do that quite often. So we use Remind, and it's a texting service that allows us to send quick notifications to students if they opt in to receive the messages. Parents are more than welcome to sign up as well. To sign up, you just send a text to the number 81010 with one of the codes below. Ms. Metzger's been sending out some texts recently about isotopes tickets. So if you've been getting those, you're on our Remind and you don't need to re-sign up. If you have no idea what I'm talking about with isotopes, then you're probably not set up to receive them. But this is where when I post a new scholarship list, I will send out a notice, hey, I posted a new scholarship list to your website, and I'll send a link. Or don't forget to come to the lecture hall for the UNM New Mexico State Tech event, or, U Chicago's coming next week. So I will send out notices through this as well as reminders, so it doesn't hurt if parents want to sign up for this as well. This is also on that Class of 22 website if you want to look at it later. So students received, this is an old picture of the packet, but students did receive this packet today. There is a hard copy of it, or a PDF copy of it, on the Class of 22 website. And in it, there are kind of month by month. So the front of it has information on dates and deadlines, especially our New Mexico State school scholarships. Like, when do you have to be admitted by for the Bridge Scholarship or the Regions or Presidential? It has all of that on here. But it also has kind of a month by month guide of what you should be doing this month, what you should be doing next month. So in September, we're really just looking at starting to finalize that college list, starting the college applications, looking at deadlines carefully. If they need an SAT or an ACT, registering for those for the October, November ones, narrowing down their college choices, attending that college fair that we talked about to go explore colleges a little bit more, and then visiting with those college reps that come to our school. We have that paying for college presentation come up, and then start looking for scholarships. October, we're really trying to make sure that we apply to UNM by October 15th so that they can get that application fee waived. We can't start the FAFSA till October 1st, but we really want to try to fill it out as soon as we can in October, November, because some schools have earlier deadlines and we don't want to miss out on money that they might be able to award our students. November, December, November 1st, or being admitted by December 1st is required for the UNM presidents and regents. They must be fully admitted. The same for Woodward Scholars and Achievers, and then New Mexico State's Presidents Associates, all of those scholarships. They have to be admitted by December 1st. So knowing our students, knowing my own kids, they'll wait till November 30th and think that means they've been admitted. They haven't. They really need to back that up, and by November 15th, have that application and components in so they can be admitted in time. If they miss that deadline, they will not be considered for those scholarships, even if they meet the GPA qualification for them, okay? An important note, if a student has a college deadline or scholarship deadline of January 1st or 15th, they need to ask teachers and counselors for those by December 1st, because we also get winter break, and there's nothing worse than a panicked student on Christmas Day asking for a letter of recommendation when we're not at work, okay? So have them plan ahead. Just some other dates in here. Some schools will ask for 7th semester transcripts. That means they want to see fall grades before they finalize their admissions. So keep students, if they see that, just have them know that they're going to have to send those in January. In March, April, May, we're hopeful that you'll get all of the information you need to compare the costs versus admissions and the different colleges, and you guys can sit down at the kitchen table and make a decision as far as what you can make work financially, what meets the needs of your student educational, and kind of just make an educated decision. Then you can start attending new student orientation and finalizing your housing arrangements in more April and May timeframe, okay? Some upcoming dates, don't forget that college fair. These are all things that we just went over, so I'm gonna skip them. But then I want to point out this, and while I'm doing this slide, if anybody has questions, you can type them in the chat and then I'm gonna answer them. I'll make sure that I've answered the ones that were asked already too. But colleges really do care about senior year grades. I tell students that senioritis is a real disease, and it is, and it seems to kick in earlier and earlier every year, and we wanna push it off as far as we can. The reason why we say this is students can be admitted and they'll get this amazing admissions letter and packet, but it's a conditional offer of acceptance. If students send their final transcripts in June and colleges notice that grades have dropped or they've dropped a bunch of courses, they can revoke the admissions. So we need to really encourage students to finish strong, to keep their grades up as they have in the past. The other thing is, the worst day of the year in the counseling department is the day that grades are posted in May. Because every year we have students that didn't pass classes and we have to call home, and it's usually like 2 days before graduation, and we have to say your kid's not graduating, but grandma's already in town, you've flown everybody in, you're having a big party, but the kid kind of just let things go and didn't graduate. So really encourage them to keep up with their good study habits, to get through and finish strong. So that's kind of my last little plea to you, and ask for help of parents to do that. So I want to go back to the previous question that was asked about you applying to UNM scholarships. Most of them don't require an application, but the Regents and Presidential do. And you just go to the UNM website and navigate to their scholarship page, and the link is right there for the Regents and Presidential. It's the same application. The only difference is the Regents requires a 2-minute video in addition to the short answer questions. So no separate application for the rest of them, including lottery. You just are automatically considered when you apply, okay? How does the government determine that family contribution? It is used based on the financial aid application, the FAFSA, and they look at a family income based on taxes, and it looks at your investments, but again, it doesn't include retirement or your house or anything like that, but it just really looks at income and savings, that type of thing. So that's all a big formula that goes into that financial aid application. And I think I answered the question about WUI and neighboring states. So that's the end of my presentation. If you have any questions for me, and I'll get to that question there, that you didn't want to ask on the chat, or if you have further things as they come up throughout the year, you can always email me. I've been in classrooms all week, so if I've missed your email, I'm sorry. I'll get caught up the next couple days. But also, if you want to set up an appointment, there's a link on my website, on the La Cueva Counseling website, that you can go to and find a time and day that works for you based on my availability and set up an appointment. Or you can call our secretary, Mrs. Bash, and set up an appointment as well. So let's see. Basics for student taking a year to get the whole senior year transcript and, I'm sorry, senior year transcript and then some community college record into the application. So if a student wants to wait to apply to college until the following year, or let's say next spring or next fall, you can totally do that. You just need to make sure that for next fall, you're applying kind of like the same timeline we are now. You're applying next fall and meeting all of those deadlines, and then they'll just ask for your high school transcript. But at that time, your high school transcript will be complete with everything that they've done this year. If a student is attending a community college, they can do that. Some colleges require that you have at least a year or 2 years of college completed before you are considered a transfer student at the university. So I'll use UNM as our example first. So UNM says if you have less than 24 credit hours, we're still going to look at your high school GPA and transcript. But if you've completed a year of college, which is 24 credit hours after high school, we will only look at your college courses, so your community college courses. There are other colleges out of state that say you have to complete a full 2 years of coursework to be considered a transfer student. So every college is a little different, but that's totally a possibility for students if they want to start at community college and transfer over or take a year off of school. So if you already applied to UNM and paid the application fee, the answer in the past from UNM is that, sorry, you can't get it back, but it doesn't hurt to contact UNM and ask them if there's any way to get the money refunded. But they kind of just, that's just usually been their answer. So sorry about that, GB. So if you don't have any other questions, I'm going to hang out for just a few minutes, but I really appreciate you spending your night with me. And if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you, everybody. You're welcome, everybody. Good night, everybody.